All right, welcome everyone. This is Tammy Hott, the Sarah Project. I use she, they pronouns, and we are going to get started with information from our interpreters today for those who need Spanish interpretation. So I will turn it over to Stephen or Isis.
Hola, hola, ¿qué tal? Soy Tammy Hot de The Zero Project. Vamos a comenzar. Bienvenidos. Para accesar a la interpretación, tienen que ir al logo del planeta donde dice interpretación y dar clic en el idioma preferido. En esta vez tenemos disponible el idioma de español, aparte del de inglés, que es el idioma que se va a estar hablando durante la presentación. Y después tienen que dar clic en interpretación del lenguaje y luego en español.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you to both Stephen Vargas and Isis Tapia for providing simultaneous interpretation today. I also want to introduce presenters today, Vanita Ray, who is the chair of the caucus. Deketra Griffin and Kim Moon are going to be helping present on some of these slides, and they are both community members and members of the steering committee. So I appreciate all of them helping out today. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Vanita to start us off.
Okay, y'all. Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. As Tammy said, I'm Vanita Ray, and my pronouns are she, her, and aya. I am the current chair of the caucus, and I welcome you for joining us today. Just a little bit about caucus history, y'all. So the caucus was formed in about 2010 and was the brainchild of folks like Vanessa Johnson and others that were around that were trying. It came around the time that the U.S. under President Barack Obama created its first national
Hola,
HIV/AIDS
están hablando. Oh.
national HIV/AIDS strategy, and they wanted a mechanism that we could have a collective voice for feedback into that strategy. And if you're familiar with the Denver principles, you know that they talk about us forming caucuses to represent ourselves and to provide this collective voice. And so the U.S. People Living with HIV Caucus was born in 2010 as a way to respond to this federal document that was coming out and to make sure that we had a collective voice instead of it just individual voices. And so we've been around for 15 years now, and we're building off of the things out of the Denver principles in terms of we want to be involved in everything that that affects us, and we seek to create a diverse and accountable culture of leadership and engagement that includes folks around the country and representing people living with HIV. But we're dedicated to the principles of meaningful involvement, and that's what we're built on. We're all people living with HIV. And I'll say next slide. Am I going too fast?
I'm sorry, Vanita, can you hold on just a second? I think we might have some issues with interpretation. Let me quick ask Isis and Stephen, are you doing interpretation? Because right now you're not speaking over us, so I'm going to, so I think it's working. We can't hear you, so you must be in the
Spanish channel.
This is Stephen. For the English part, I started translating a little bit late, but y'all couldn't hear the Spanish?
No, we cannot hear the
Okay, good.
Spanish.
Okay, good. Para los que hablan español, nos pueden oír.
Now there I heard you in Spanish.
Okay, no,
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
Thank you.
folks, let's stop for just a second and I'm gonna switch over to the Spanish, uh, it's not channel, but indicate that I'm going to listen in Spanish if you all wanna
Tammy, I
talk
can do
for.
that if you want me to. I can switch over to
Okay,
Spanish and see.
thank you,
if-
Ebony.
Mhm.
So, sorry, everyone. Know how technology sometimes doesn't work, but we want to make sure that folks who need to access the interpretation in Spanish are able to do that. So let's quick check that out, and Ebony will get back to us if it's working.
I can hear it now. Just softly though.
It's working. All right, perfect. So
¿Me escuchan?
thank you for ensuring that we can make sure we have language justice on this webinar. And I will go to the next slide for you, Vanita. Thank you for the break.
Okay, so I hope everybody heard that. But again, the caucus is here for the meaningful involvement of people living with HIV and has predominantly been focused on our involvement, getting our voice at the federal level, and we're starting to move more towards the state. And so, uh, again, we, the other organizations that existed to be a collective voice for people living with HIV were organizations like NAPWA, National Association of People with AIDS, that dissolved before the caucus was formed. And these, like I told you, Vanessa Johnson was one of those, Pat Kelly, but Sean Struve. There were a number of advocates that came together that had been working together and put the caucus in place. And so we deal with, building the leadership of people living with HIV. We focus on issues that impact us. There's so many more issues than we have people, because one of the things I want to say is the caucus is an all volunteer based group. We don't have steady funding, so we are doing the best we can to really uplift the voices and to keep the caucus alive, because we recognize the importance of establishing our own agenda, putting forth our own priorities, and having our own people be leaders in these respective seats, so that we have a collective voice in all the issues. And I don't have to say that now is more important than ever, y'all. So why we came together, the reason still exists today. Um, the caucus is still needed, as well as the groups that you all form around the country to uplift the voices and needs of people living with HIV. So we still have this same need. I wish I could say it went away. 1983 Denver principles that we need to form our own caucuses. We still need to do that, where's our voices. It doesn't matter. We don't mind working with others, but we won't. We cannot depend on others to articulate our needs without us being at the table. So next slide. Is this me or is this Kim?
This is still you,
Okay.
Vanita.
So the steering committee, the caucus has a couple levels. So you can join the caucus as a general member of the caucus, and I hope everyone on here is, whether you get on the steering committee or not, but to participate in the caucus, uh, period. But the steering committee is the governing body of the caucus, and the way that it was formed is we have some anchor networks, which are networks of people living with HIV, that they have a representative on the caucus, and we have individual representatives on the caucus, like myself as an individual. But our anchor networks are International Community of Women North America, Positively Trans, the Reunion Project, and the Zero Project, and Positive Women's Network. And these are networks because these organizations represent other people who are living with HIV. So they are considered networks of people living with HIV, and they have a representative on the caucus. Typically, the representatives, they have two from each of the anchor networks, but they get one vote, as well as the individual members, of which I assume you all are here applying for. We select a chair, It says co-chair, but two chairs, a chair and a co-chair, vice chair, a secretary, and a treasurer who monitors our budget when we get in funds that allow us to do other programming. So the caucus is governed by this steering committee of 10 individuals right now, and we will have two or three more after we select from you all, and then our anchor networks representing that operate the caucus on behalf of the members. Next slide. And I hope you are familiar with some of those organizations because it's worth it going to take a look at them because they represent people living with HIV just in different areas. The Reunion Project, people aging with HIV, Positively Trans is folks who identify as trans living with HIV. So go check out those. The Zero Project does a lot as well. So these organizations do a lot of work on their own that it behooves you to go check them out individually as well as how we come together collectively. These are our steering committee members that you see in front of you. Myself and Rob and Michael Elizabeth are chairs for the caucus. And then Ronald Johnson is treasurer. Marnina Miller, who is with PWN, is the secretary. And then we have other representatives, Kamaria Laffrey and Martha Cameron. Next slide. Malcolm Reed is a community member. Tori Cooper and Teo Drake represent Positively Trans. And Wahida represents the Reunion Project. Remember, they were an anchor. Gabriel, and I don't want to mess up Gabriel's last name, but we love Gabriel, lives in New York and is a individual member. And Deketra Griffin, who is also on this call today and will be speaking with y'all, is another individual member of the caucus. Next slide. And this is just to give you a sense. You're going to hear from Kim Moon today as an individual. Helen Zimba is an individual member, but she also works with an organization called Al-Shay African Sisterhood Empowerment. And then we have AJ Scruggs as an individual member out of Philly. And then Christian Castro is an individual member, but he also represents Latinx. And Helen, AJ, and Christian are our newest members from our last year round of recruitment. So great job. They're all doing some really good stuff. So next slide. Caucus operations are run by, as I told you, the steering committee is the governing body, but we also have an operations committee, and then we have a consultant, Ebony Turk, who's here, who has limited hours with us to handle some of our coordination efforts, but we don't have staff. Ebony is not a full-time consultant, but she does way more than she is contracted to do in her effort to support our efforts. Again, the people we pay are living with HIV. We do pay non-people living with HIV, but we try to focus on people living with HIV. We now have a communications officer, and I keep changing his title every time, but it's Juan Michael Porter II, which we're really excited, and that's been a recent thing because we had no communication support before this. So all of the work that's done by the caucus is by us as individuals or Ebony Turk as our consultant, and now we have a 5 hours a week communications person. And these are some of the past officers that were there.
Thank you so much, Vanita. Appreciate you starting us off and providing our history and why we're here. I'm going to share a little bit about what we do as a caucus, and Vanita shared part of this earlier, but why networks of people living with HIV are important. And as Vanita said, now even more than ever, they enable us as people living with HIV to define our own agenda, enable us to determine our priorities, enable people living with HIV to select our own leadership and not leadership chosen for us, and enable the creation of a collective voice of people living with HIV. And we hope that you all feel that from the caucus and the steering committee leading. As she said, the call to action, what started the caucus was to expose and challenge the lack of meaningful involvement of people living with HIV and AIDS, or MIPA, in the development of and implementation of the first national HIV/AIDS strategy. And since that first one, there was a second national HIV/AIDS strategy where the caucus really pushed back to get quality of life measurements other than our viral loads, our biomedical numbers, that we are a person with the quality of life isn't determined whether we can get undetectable. It's how we're living and how we are thriving as people living with HIV. And the caucus was launched as a network to build and be the unified voice for people living with HIV in the US. And the caucus has worked tirelessly ever since to realize the self-empowerment and self-determination of people living with HIV through leadership development, especially among people of color living with HIV, to be forceful and strategic in actions on emergent policy issues, and sustained organizing of AIDS Watch annually. And we've just built on those principles throughout the years. And now, just to highlight a few things, the benefits of being a member of the caucus is you can join committees and work groups that shape national advocacy efforts. And as Vanita shared, we are also working to start focusing on state efforts. We know in the next few years, we may not have impact nationally, but at the state level is where these policies are impacting our daily lives. Stay informed through our newsletter. As Vanita shared, the caucus has contracted with Juan Michael Porter II to help do that. We know communications and feeling the lack of communication has been an issue with our members, so we are working to remedy that. And most excitingly, share your voice in our annual member feedback survey to help guide our priorities. And that link will be shared later. We are keeping that open until August 15th to allow you to share your priorities with the caucus, with the steering committee. And we are committed to having that member survey annually so that we can hear from you what priorities you would like to see the caucus focus on. So some of the partnerships and collaborations of the caucus are AIDS Watch. The caucus serves as a coordinating partner for AIDS Watch, which, for those that don't know, it's the largest federal HIV lobbying day each year in the US, usually in March. Broadening and diversifying representation of people living with HIV at this annual event over the past, well, it's been longer than 4 years. I didn't get that updated. I can't remember how long the caucus has been a coordinating partner, but we've been doing it for a while. Another partner, the caucus is a planning partner for HINAC, HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy, which was held in June of this year. It's a biannual event. And the caucus is an active partner in assisting with efforts to modernize HIV non-disclosure in the US and supports HINAC as a planning partner. And we had a great turnout this year. The caucus is also a partner organization of the Health Not Prisons Collective. And the collective is united against the use of policing, prosecution, and imprisonment in public health crises, and committed to the abolition of the carceral state, including immigration detention, which places the profits of a few over the health and lives of the community. And the caucus also drafted the Demanding Better agenda. It was the first time people living with HIV have written, drafted what we want to see, what people living with HIV want to see in a federal response. And somebody should be sharing the link to the Demanding Better agenda if you haven't read that yet. It is a living document. We have heard from members that it wasn't inclusive. It didn't include like HIV and aging in that. So we are, looking to always update it and hearing from you on how we can make that better. And I think at this point, I am going to pass it to Kim to share the different caucus committees that we will invite you to participate in. So Kim, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Miss Tammy. Hello, everyone. As Tammy said, my name is Kim Moon. Pronouns she, her. I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia, and I serve on the steering committee as an individual. So I'll talk to you about the different committees within the caucus. The first one that we'll discuss is the Policy Action Committee, and some of you might remember it as the Federal Policy Committee, but it is the key working group within the caucus, and Malcolm Reed is a chair. He's not here today. He's been out for a little while, but he'll be back. But, our role is to focus on policy and making sure that, voices of people living with HIV are heard in the halls of power. And we work to shape the policies and advocate for civil and human rights of people living with HIV. One of our biggest projects each year is creating the Civil and Human Rights Policy Brief for AIDS Watch, and that is a major advocacy event where we present our priorities to lawmakers, making sure and that they understand what's needed to protect our civil rights to improve our lives. I forgot, Tammy, I wasn't going through all of them individually. I was just going through one of them at a time. So you could go to the next slide. My apologies. I should have told you that rather than reading them all and then going through them. Yeah, I talked about that one. But anyway, they meet on the second Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. Tammy, you can go to the next one. So the next one that we'll talk about is membership engagement. This committee is really about building and keeping strong connections within our community. We make sure that new members feel welcomed and understand, how we get involved, how to get involved, create spaces for members to share feedback through listening sessions. So we know that, what works and where where it can be better. Like Tammy said, she'll send you an email with the Tammy, help me out. What do we call the document that you'll send them for the survey for their
The
feedback?
membership,
Yes.
feedback survey.
Yes, the feedback survey. So you'll get that, but we also work on strategies to grow people living with HIV networks across the country. So, which helps us to stay strong and connected. We meet once a month on the fourth Wednesday at 6 p.m. And of course, Ms. Tammy is the lead for that. It's a great place for anyone who wants to play a part in keeping members engaged and supported. Cero Project, I forgot. They coordinate that. My apologies. So the next committee is the Communications Committee. Communications Committee is the voices of the caucus. We closely with other committees, to shine light on priority issues and to keep both our members and the public informed about what we do. That means introducing or reintroducing, I'll say that, to the caucus members, sharing updates and making sure our website and social media reflects our current work. We also lead quarterly webinars to engage members directly, produce newsletters, blogs, and other online content to keep our community connected. Meeting times is still being finalized, but if you are passionate about getting the word out and making sure your stories are heard, this is the place for you. Next slide. The physical committee, that's the one, right, Vanita? The physical committee is about keeping the caucus financially strong. That's what we need, some finances, okay? Strong and sustainable, coordinated by the steering committee. We take the lead in fundraising and managing the caucus finances. Vanita and Ebony and Ronald do a good job at making sure and fundraising and all of those other things and trying to keep us engaged. But that means that, you know, this committee makes sure the resources we need to carry out our mission, tracking our budget and exploring new funding opportunities. If you have skills or interested in fundraising, budgeting, financial oversight, this is where you can help keep our work moving forward. Next slide. Federal Strategies Committee. So for this committee, the Federal Strategy Committee focuses on making sure the federal responses to HIV truly reflects the meaningful involvement of people living, you know, with HIV. This committee is open only to people living with HIV and does its work through dedicated work groups. We identify and discuss key policies, priorities, recommend the caucus positions on the priorities and set specific policy goals. From here, we put those goals into action through targeted advocacy strategies aimed at influencing federal decision-making. We also keep a close eye on the federal government policies, priorities to assess how well we align with the needs of our community. So within this, you can go to the next slide, Tammy. We have subgroups of quality of life, which the chairperson is Martha Cameron. So if you're interested, by all means, click on the Google link. The status neutral, which is Barb Cadell, which is another subcommittee. So in closing, I'll just say to you, if you heard something that might spark your interest or that you are involved in, we'd love for you to get involved. It's simple. Just fill out the short Google form and let us know which committee you'd like to join. You know, once you do that, we'll add you to that committee's Google group so you can start getting updates and invitations and meeting invites and whatever else information. Tammy will make sure you're well informed. That's for certain.
Can I add one thing to that, Kim? And
Yes,
it was in the notes, but please, and I think Deketra did drop a Google form so you can identify what committee you may have you may be interested in. So I want you to be a member of the caucus first, but there are some committees that aren't open to the general membership, like fiscal committee is not, federal strategy is not. So we can give you more information about which one's the membership committee, political action committee, language justice committee, communications. There are some committees that will be open to all members and some committees are open to steering committee only. So if you indicate which one you're interested in, we will let you know then.
Right.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure folks know that so they don't come back later and say, I wanted this committee.
Right. Well, I think like we didn't even, is the language justice committee on here? We didn't put that on here, did we? I didn't see it.
I added it to the slides. But
No, but I just repeated everything Vanita said in Spanish.
Works for me.
And it is listed, and my apologies, because I did get language justice updated in the list of the different committees, but I didn't get a specific slide for the language justice talking about the work that they do. So I will definitely get that added before I send the slides out. And then I also wanted to uplift the question in the chat box about molecular HIV surveillance work group. So that is a work group that isn't, well, still figuring out if it's under the caucus, but caucus is a part of that. And it is listed on the join the committees Google group, and we can get you connected to that group, but they I don't remember when the meetings are. It's on a Thursday, but I can't remember which day of the week or which week of the month it is, and discussing on surveillance issues and molecular HIV surveillance. So that's a great group to join, and that one is open to all community members, whoever is interested and concerned about the surveillance of and the increased surveillance that we are going through.
Right.
And thank you, Sonia, for putting it in there, that joining a committee and you find that that is helpful in your advocacy. So we appreciate that feedback as well. Thank you so much, Kim, for sharing on the different committees. I'm going to uplift just a few of the achievements of the caucus since its inception. And this is not a comprehensive list. And quite frankly, it's not updated the best to all of our achievements. One, we are really hoping now that we have Juan Michael contracted, that you will be hearing more about the things that the caucus is doing. But some of the work is advocacy and policy influence. We've discussed that through the Demanding Better agenda, through the work that we do with AIDS Watch and different things like that. Community representation is very important, and really, one of our guiding principles is MIPA and ensuring that people living with HIV are at those decision-making tables. Educational initiatives, hosting webinars and educational sessions, partnering with other organizations to also uplift issues that are important to the community. The caucus doesn't always lead them, but we are key partners. And once again, ensuring that our voices and the voices of people living with HIV are included in those different events. Then we do HIV decriminalization grants. That is through the Health Not Prisons Collective funding that the caucus receives to support different efforts on HIV criminalization reform. We've discussed AIDS Watch collaboration. We are having a strategic planning retreat in September, which we're really hoping to finalize some different projects and a vision going forward, which is one reason why we appreciate everyone who has shared your priorities in that member feedback survey. So you still have time to fill that out and inform our decision-making processes. PACHA engagement, we have a few members that have served on PACHA. Right now, PACHA is up in the air. And sorry, that's a Presidential Advisory Council on HIV and AIDS. They are waiting to hear how they are going to proceed. ONAP policy meetings, Office of National AIDS Policy. We were meeting with the previous ONAP director. I believe that office has not been filled under the current administration. But one of the things under our meetings with ONAP is that the caucus participated in the Quality of Life Symposium, the Enhancing the Lives of People with HIV symposium that was held around last World AIDS Day. Then I wanted to uplift at least the Caucasus Institute at USCHA this year. The caucus is a planning partner for USCHA. And will be hosting the Caucus Institute, Living, Thriving, and Demanding Better, Aging with HIV and the Shifting Political Climate on September 4th from 8 to 11 a.m. And we hope if you are attending USCHA that you will join us for that institute. And I know I know that Vanita is gathering a list of other, excuse me, workshops that caucus members will be presenting at, and we will share that with you so you will know where the caucus is going to be, and caucus members are going to be at USCHA. And then one thing is that we ensured that a language justice workshop was selected for USCHA, knowing that it is a priority for the caucus, and uplifting that important work at USCHA was important as well. And I believe Vanita is a part of that panel.
Which panel? Oh,
no.
no.
Language justice?
Yes, I will be. We will be presenting HIV and the law with Whitman Walker, and then with AVAC on viral load monitoring. We got some words for them. Stop. We're not our viral load, y'all.
But we will be getting that information collected and sent out to you before USCHA, so you know where the caucus is going to be. And with that, I am going to pass the mic over to Deketra, who will be sharing information about more information about the caucus.
Hello, all. So after hearing all this, if you're like, I want to do more for the caucus, potentially joining the steering committee, just sit tight. We're not there yet. As it says on this slide, we have to reach fall 2025. So stay tuned to your email, watch social media. You will be notified. So stay tuned. Keep them eyes open, even keep those ears open. You will be notified. But just what does the process even look like to give you an idea? As it says here, steering committee applicants will come from current caucus members. Applicants involve organizational and network members, also individual and independent advocates like myself. We will have applications for the open seats for the steering committee. After you complete an application, what's the next step? The next step involves the membership committee, which will review those applications and then prepare a slate of nominations. That way, the steering committee can then vote for approval for that. What does it look like then? The steering committee truly selects individuals, organizations, and networks to serve on the steering committee body. We definitely ensure that representation matters in terms of demographic, geographic diversity, diversity for trans experience. Keep in mind, steering committee members do have to be people living with HIV. Also, steering committee members serve a 3-year term. So, jumping forward, what is the caucus commitment to you? Well, the caucus ensures that we will host a webinar 3 times throughout the year. What does this actually involve? Updates in terms of what the caucus is doing, organizational members will share what they are doing, and also provide ways where you can get involved on projects that are happening within the next 3 to 6 months. So once again, keep your eyes open. The caucus is a body that works. It works for us collectively. So we want to make sure that you're included in all committee calls and also all updates, which is why we also made sure that communications is needed for us as people.
And I want to say, this is off script, y'all. I just got to say this, though. We welcome new members on the steering committee. But what I really want to ask folks, because it seems like the folks that get on the committee are already doing a million things. So, and y'all know that we are in the fight of our lives. So, to be on the caucus, it requires a good 4 to 6 hours a month. And I want folks to think very realistically, do you have this time? Because some people we have on the caucus just show up for meetings, but the real work is done outside of the meetings. It's the work of trying to make sure people know about this. It's the work of thinking through policy. So we need people with some time to put forth. If you are already busy and doing a lot of things, you may know somebody who is an emerging leader who has the time, and you might recommend this to them if it's not you. But I'm just saying, I just want to put in a call. I will be stepping off the steering committee at the end of the year, but I'm just putting in a call because the amount of work that's needed is really a lot, and 4 to 6 hours a month is just a minimum, and some folks don't give that either, but that is really hurting us in the long run to really serve the all of the people, whether they know that we're serving them or not. In this political climate, we need folks that have some time to throw down and to help us develop campaigns or figure ways to get other members involved. You know, we said we want to move to the state level. We can only move at the state level if we have people willing to help us move. We don't have a big budget. As a matter of fact, we're scraping by as it is, and but that's not your concern, but it will be all of our concerns if the caucus goes away. So I just want to just put in a call. Just do your own self-assessment. Do you have time? You know the political climate we're in, and if you do and you're willing to make it work, we will welcome you. But if you don't and you're just looking for another position to have that you just want to show up on a meeting and leave, please refer somebody else that might have the time, because I'm looking at Darren and I know your work. I would love you to be here. I just want folks to have the time because there's a lot going on, and we got to do more to meet the needs of our people living with HIV in this climate. It is really rough. So thank you all for being here. And I hope to see y'all on the steering committee, and you are welcome, and bring your brilliance, your new ideas, and your willingness to learn. And that's all I'll say. Tammy, I'll turn it back over to you. I'm on a soapbox these days.
Deketra has a little bit more, but Denise, I see that your hand is raised.
Hi. Yeah, thank you, Tammy. I was just wondering, I was wondering if there was a general meeting of this body of people, because it seems like I'm in and out of a relationship with this group, because I'm not sure if I'm a member or if I'm not. And then when I realize I am a member, I join a committee. I joined the, I think, Policy Action Group, and um, I don't seem to stay connected to that meeting very well. In and out, I'm not sure. I'm off the list. So it's as a member of, I'm just wondering if there's a general meeting where you get information about things other than this orientation, because I'm on unsteady grounds as to how to engage in this body of people.
Want me to answer that? Tammy, you got it?
Go for Vanita.
Okay, so Denise, let me first apologize. You're exactly right. In the surveys that we've received so far, one of the things that people have called out is communications. And someone who just said they joined a few times, I just went to the Google group and they weren't there, and I just added them again. So as I told you, we're a group of volunteers, y'all, and so we, this year we've been doing a lot of work on our internal structure and getting it solidified, and that's why we have a comms person now for a few hours a month, and we hope that communication will be increasing and improving. And so I just apologize to you for what has happened in the past, and it might happen a little longer till we get a little bit better organized. We had a big meeting last week that we had notified people on, and that was our first one this year, where we probably had over 50 or 60 people on there. So that happened last year. We are planning to do regular membership wide meetings again. It's just been a manpower issue, Denise. That is all. And that's why I made the plea, please come help us, but it's been a manpower issue. So our goal moving forward, and Tammy can tell you, because I forget, what we're making a commitment to do membership meetings every so often, and Tammy can speak after me, because I'm just forgetting that. And the survey, we have a Facebook page. But if you have not been getting, and let me say, political action, the chair has had to take a sabbatical this summer, so they have not been meeting this summer, and that is why, because remember, these are individuals volunteering their time. So please, and I'm sorry if that's happened to others. I do recognize it. We hope that we can plug some of these holes where you signed up but you're still not getting emails. And our goal, especially with a communications person now, is to have regular communications. And we had that big meeting last week. And I think, Tammy, did we say a quarter or something like that? We can do that unless we get more manpower and money. We'd like to do it more. So
That
again,
was excellent clarification. Thank you so much.
mhm. Go ahead, Tammy.
Ebony?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I was in the Spanish channel, so I heard a little bit of what Vanita just said about people not like joining and I guess not getting information. And Tammy, you probably already said this, but I just want to be clear for everybody who, if you joined, there's an application that need like there's a full-on application that needs to be filled out in order for us to know where you want to go. So Tammy, did you mention that? Because some people join, some people just fill out the short form on the website, which is three fields, but there's actually an application that needs to be filled out in order for us to know where to place you. I don't know if you brought that up or not, Tammy, but if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
And that is, thank you, Ebony. That is the link that is that has been, I'm sure, put in the chat box along with, well, here, I can go back to it real quick. The slide, nope, that's.
Yeah, we dropped that link in the chat for folks to fill out for a committee.
To identify which group, oh my gosh, too many tab. When things don't, let's do it this way. That's not gonna let me do it. Sorry, folks. Technology issues with, somehow I got on a freaking pencil here that I don't want. There we go. Oh, it's back further, but it's to join the committee. So one thing, just to let you know, in case you're unsure if you have filled out that form to join a committee, fill that out and I will get you added to the Google group. Denise, I will look into seeing why you're not. Once you're added to the Google group, well, I should also clarify, for those of you who have a Google email, it should put it on your Google Calendar when those meetings are, so that you have that notice, but not everyone has a Google account or that. So we'll make sure, if you're not getting those when the meeting times are, and a Zoom link, let me know and I'll make sure that I get you added. Also, just to be clear with folks, Google has changed stuff, which has driven me crazy. But when you join and fill out the application to be a member of the caucus, if you are not using a Google-based or a Gmail, Google-based email, I send you an invitation and you have to accept that invitation. I cannot directly add you if you are not using to the Google group, if you are not using a Google-based email. Now that is something that Google has changed, but I also include that in the email if I can only invite you. So there are some technical issues that we are trying to navigate with these different platforms that we use, changing how we can utilize them. But if you are not receiving emails, contact me and I will check to see if you are a part of the group that you signed up for, and we will troubleshoot to make sure that we can get you connected. And I'll put my email in the chat box in just a second. And I'm going to turn this back to Deketra, who's going to share a couple of opportunities that we have for members to get involved and to share their stories, which is something that the caucus is committed to, and we want to hear from you so that we know by sharing our stories, for those who are ready for that, can change hearts and minds, and we definitely need that more now than ever. So I'm going to turn it back over to Deketra to share information on other ways that you can get involved in the caucus.
All right, so next we have up video storytelling. This involves the caucus recognizing that advocacy totally looks different for everyone. So we've developed an initiative to where you, the members, individual advocates, can showcase what does that look like for you by creating a short emphasis on short, like 60 seconds at the max, 90 at the max if you need to push it. But emphasis, try to hit that 60-second mark if you can. And this is really so that we as people living with HIV can own our own stories, own our own narratives, be able to tell our own truths. There are several moments in time where the caucus goes into different areas, and being able to use these stories, being able to use these narratives and share with other people, what do our members need? What are our members talking about? What do our members' voices say is different from hearing it from a person saying it, to look on the screen like, oh, well, this is what Deketra has to say, or this is what Vanita has to say, or other members in general have to say. We're able to use those videos and showcase what do our members believe in, what do our members need. By doing this, you can use your phone, tablet, iPhone, get your neighbor, ask for permission first, but use whatever device you can. We're asking for at least 25 videos. Send it to the caucus email, which was just dropped. So the PLHIV caucus at Gmail. Send the videos. It's definitely going to help us out. We're looking for 25. Get creative. Use your resources. It's 60 seconds, 90 seconds, but I'm going to say
No,
60 seconds.
no, 60 to 90. Yeah, I was going with your highest. Sorry.
No, you're fine. We're trying to make it short and brief. So you think about getting people's attention, we roughly have like 10 seconds. So adding that other 30 seconds on, I understand if you have a lot to say, use the time. If you can get it down to 60 seconds, I love you even more. If you get it to 90, there's no love lost. I still love you. But definitely emphasize that other people can identify what you're saying, you're communicating well, you're staying on topic within these time givens. So a nice 60 to 90-second video, send it to the caucus email, sharing your story. That way the caucus can own it and emphasize people living with HIV.
Mhm.
All right, so we're back at this time with the member feedback survey. I know it's been dropped in the chat quite a few times. I'm going to drop it as well. Tammy mentioned that it will close August 15th. That's the end of this week. There's been a lot of input already on this call. If you can take the time, fill it out. If you have more to say, if you just want to emphasize what you have already said and shared, definitely so we can capture that. As it was mentioned, a retreat is happening in September. This gives us momentum to encourage what do our members need? What do we want collectively as people living with HIV? And push sustainability for the caucus in general. It's already been existing 10 years. We want to give it another 50 plus years. Also, getting in contact with us, it was already dropped in the chat, but here you are in front of you, our email. You can send your video to us. Also, if you have any comments, other questions that you don't want to broadcast generally, communicate with us. Let us know. We are here. We are a body that works for the people collectively. And then the next slide, I do believe, is questions. So now that you've received all this information, any other questions? Maybe you're waiting for this moment. Who knows?
I want to say Marlene sent me her email. I just added you should get an invite. Denise should get an invite, but still reach out to Tammy. I just I'm just getting confused at why folks are joining. So I was checking the Google group as you all let me know. So, and let me say this about the videos, y'all. We don't have to settle for 25. Show us that you really want to put yourself out there by sending more than one. We want to add these to different documents we have. You don't have to say your name. Say your name if you want to, but this is something everybody can do if you're willing to give us. We said 25 because we lowered the goal, but get us 50. We can do 100. I mean, because people always want our stories and we want to control how we send our stories to people. We're not interested in trauma porn. We're interested in advocacy and making a difference. So we welcome you all. I'll go back on mute.
Scott, I see you, your hand is raised.
Hi. Yeah, I'm looking forward to joining the caucus and jumping in. I'm a co-chair of a planning council here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm thankful to find the group and to learn more about the work that you guys do every day and put in at least 4 or 5 hours a month. So I certainly hope that I can do that through this different work that you guys do on your committees. When I'm looking at your survey on the membership, I just see that you have I just had a quick question just when you're asking about different priority areas, and I see, you have clearly defined areas, and I think they're all high. I would say they're all very important, and I just was curious as to how it would be helpful, like when you're looking through that. I would say 5 on all of them, but is that something really important for us to sort of help define your priority list by actually sort of like prioritizing 2 or 3 that would be really important to me, that would be sort of help define your priority list if by scaling them out, actually sort of, I don't want to put a 1 on any of them, but would that be helpful for me to sort of actually rank them in a more appropriate way? Does that make sense? I don't want to say a 1 on anything, but if I had to, so, like state appropriations and budget and advocacy, that's really important to me. But I think that if I had to just rank it up against, gender affirming care or housing, I would, that just in the caucus's policy work and that sort of thing. Is that something that'd be useful for us to make a ranking on that?
It would, and we rank the responses. So yes, so we can, and Tammy, you can do this too. Send out the slide deck from last week if you want. That has went out, and a summary of the survey responses are in that slide deck. And Tammy just said yes, she would send that out, so you can see how we looked at where people are coming from and ranked. We know healthcare and housing is our top shit right now. Let's be real.
Yeah.
You can talk about all those other issues, but if we ain't got health care, we are dying. So right now in this environment, yes, but there are opportunities to still advocate for other things. So feel free to rank. You can see Tammy will send out the newsletter that was just sent out with all of the material from the big webinar we did last week, and it'll show you how we have analyzed the responses. So yes, thank you.
Great question. Thank you for asking. Does anyone else have any questions for us while we are on the call? And I will be sending out, as Vanita said, once we get the recording link and get it uploaded to YouTube. So the caucus has a YouTube channel, and I'll be sharing the slides and all the links that were shared in the chat box as well. And then I will include the information from the meeting that we had last week as well with that recording link. Right, hearing or seeing no hands or no other questions. Appreciate all of you for joining the call today. Fill out that Google form to join a committee, and I will get you uploaded or add you to the different Google groups. And Marlena, I will look into why you're not receiving emails, but if anyone has any questions, you can email me. I'll drop it one more time in the chat box. And we will troubleshoot and figure out what's going on and get you connected to the caucus. We appreciate all of you and am happy to give everyone 28 minutes back to their day. I do want to say thank you to Vanita, Deketra, Kim for sharing with us today. And then a special shout out to Stephen and Isis for providing simultaneous interpretation for us. So everyone have a great afternoon and we will be in touch.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
Have
That was
a
a
good
good
one.
question. Someone asked, will you all be doing